Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Let's go and check out top 10 worst wrestling debuts ever. Debuts? Oh. English, do you even speak? Oh, by the way, the original video is by Tap Out Corner.
You only get one chance to make a first impression, and wrestling, a bad debut can hurt, or in some cases, destroy someone's entire career. This first one didn't ruin a career, but it was embarrassing, and that's number 10, Matt Sydal.
Oh,
at All Out 2020, AEW fans witnessed the debut of Matt Sydal, formerly known as Evan Bourne in WWE. Sydal
are we going to mention Giovanni?
The Casino Battle Royale match with a big impact, and well, he technically did.
We'll take every chance known to man and animal. Oh! Sydal slipping off the top rope!
I only include Sydal's debut because he was okay and bounced right back. Still, this did not help Matt Sydal start his AEW career on the right foot. With Matt Sydal, it was just an accident and nobody's fault. Someone definitely effed up with his next debut though, and that's number 9, Impostor Kane. Now, the whole Impostor Kane storyline is a pretty infamous one in WWE history, but I honestly liked it. For those who don't know, in 2006, Kane started hearing voices in his head that kept repeating the date, May 19th. On top of that, whenever Kane did hear that date, he'd go ballistic and attack anyone in sight. After weeks of this going on, we finally found out who was behind it all.
Impostor Kane!
Yes, that is real. While it was awesome hearing the old Kane entrance music and seeing the original costume, it was ruined by that goofy wig he wore. Yeah. I guess it was a bad hair day in hell. Now, the wig was fixed for later appearances, but like I said earlier, you only get one shot at making a first impression. Yeah. It's not too surprising then that fans did not care when the two Kanes fought each other, and even less surprising that WWE got rid of the Impostor Kane almost as soon as he debuted. Give WWE credit though, at least they made the Impostor Kane look strong. When WCW debuted a monster, he still looked strong, but not in the right places. I'm talking about number 8, the Yeti. In 1995, WCW thought the future of wrestling was 80s cartoony characters. So, for the majority of the year, Hulk Hogan was
how we developed from back then.
A ton of wacky characters. One of them was the Giant, aka the Big Show, who fought Hogan for the world title at Halloween Havoc. To ensure Giant would win the title, the Dungeon of Doom revealed they had a quote insurance policy. The insurance policy ended up being and the Yeti! Even though he was called Yeti, he looked more like a mummy, but that's not what was spot on this list. Hogan and the Giant's match ended in a disqualification, and the Dungeon of Doom was laying a beatdown on the Hulkster. To finish the job, the Yeti made his debut and joined the Giant in bear-hugging Hulk Hogan. However, it looked really, really awkward. I think we might have to censor this. Not only was the bear hug weird, but the Yeti himself was just look at him. He looks like a bad Halloween costume. WCW realized their mistake and immediately had the Yeti change his costume. Now, he was a ninja. I'm kind of wondering if WCW knew what a Yeti was. Number 7, Eric Bischoff. Bischoff's on-screen personality in WCW is usually overshadowed by the fact that he was actually running the company. It wasn't until after WCW went out of business that Bischoff's talents as a character and performer got to shine when he joined WWE. However, they did not set up Eric for success. On July 15th, 2002, Vince McMahon announced he was shaking things up and that Raw would get a new general manager. He added that the new GM would be announced later in the show, and everyone began to wonder who it could be. About halfway through the broadcast, we finally got our answer, in the most anticlimactic way possible. Backstage, Booker T was giving an interview when this happened. Yep, that's how it was done. Now, I understand why WWE did it. After this, WWE went to a commercial break, so the sudden reveal of Eric Bischoff was a great way to keep viewers watching. Still, that does not excuse what a lame debut this was. Sure, Eric Bischoff wasn't a wrestler, but he was actually trying to put WWE out of business, and he came pretty close to doing it too. Even when Vince McMahon announced Bischoff as the new general manager, it did not have the hype that a moment like this should have had. Despite the awful debut, Eric Bischoff's run as Raw general manager ended up being pretty great. But think of how much more impactful it would have been had we not seen Bischoff before Vince McMahon introduced him. Number 6, Braden Walker. Now here's a wrestler whose WWE career was over before it had even begun. Chris Harris got his start in wrestling in WCW, but really made a name for himself in TNA. He was part of the company during its formative years and rose to fame when he and James Storm formed America's Most Wanted. However, in January 2008, Harris was released from his TNA contract. Just weeks later, though, WWE swooped in and signed Christopher Harris. Despite WWE's eagerness, the ex-TNA star wouldn't debut until July 2008. On ECW, Armando Estrada was looking to secure a contract. He asked general manager Teddy Long for an opportunity, so Long put Estrada in a match against a debuting...
Knock, knock. Who's there? Braden Walker.
No offense to anyone named Braden and or Walker, but that's just an awful name for a wrestler.
Oh no.
I know WWE doesn't like
not that
using
bad,
wrestlers'
Braden
real
Walker.
names, but Chris Harris was so much better.
Yeah,
Who
Chris
sat there and
Harris
thought
was
Braden
better.
Walker was seriously going to take off. Also, when your first spoken words in WWE are a knock-knock joke, it doesn't exactly scream superstar.
no.
Things didn't get much better when Walker got into the ring. It wasn't an awful match, but nothing special either. It honestly feels like WWE wanted Braden Walker to become a walking meme because that's basically what happened.
Walker.
After his debut,
Oh.
Walker wrestled one more match before being released from his contract.
Bye-bye,
Now, while the
Walker.
fans didn't cheer for
See you
Braden
later.
Walker, they at least didn't boo him. This next wrestler got such a bad reception that he left the company after one match. The man I'm talking about is, number 5, Jeff Hardy.
No way.
Today, finding a wrestling crowd that
What do you
wouldn't
mean?
go nuts seeing Jeff Hardy would be impossible. The man is loved no matter where he goes.
Yep.
But in 2003, it was a different story. In April of that year, Hardy was fired from WWE due to drug use, no showing
Yeah,
events,
that's
and
trouble.
overall lacking in-ring performance. The charismatic enigma was not unemployed for too long, though, as he joined the recently launched Ring of Honor. Jeff made his ROH debut at the Death Before Dishonor event, but before he had even made his entrance, the fans were making their opinions loud and clear. Things
Oh
only
my
got worse when Jeff Hardy
God.
came out, although he wasn't the same Jeff fans had seen in WWE. Instead, Hardy was wearing his Will-o'-the-Wisp attire, a character he had created prior to his WWE debut. The look did not matter, though, as the crowd could not be more irate seeing Jeff Hardy in Ring of Honor.
That's so mean.
You would think with that kind of reaction that Jeff Hardy had murdered a puppy the night before. Now, part of this was Jeff's fault. His firing from WWE over his drug use and declining performance was still fresh in fans' minds. However, the fans also saw Jeff Hardy as a WWE guy, and Ring of Honor's entire identity was not being WWE. On top of that, at the time, Ring of Honor focused on athletic and technical wrestling, and Jeff Hardy was seen more as a daredevil creating crazy spots. Perhaps because of the overwhelming negative reception, Jeff Hardy's debut match wasn't that good either, only making his Ring of Honor appearance even more infamous. Jeff did win, but he would later go on to call the company Ring of Horror due to his experience. After a debut like that, it's not surprising that Jeff Hardy left
Was he
ROH
thinking that
and
people are
wouldn't
gonna
return
love him?
until
This is the
2017.
problem.
That was pretty bad, but it didn't hurt Jeff's career. This next wrestler's career was ruined because of one mistake, and that's number 4, The Machine. This
Oh,
guy's
I thought
proved
that he's
it
gonna
takes more than
mention-
size and muscles to be a successful wrestler. Emery
I
Hill
bet
comes to
they're
wrestling-
gonna bring, what's his name with the mask? The stormtrooper kind of thing. Oh my god, I forgot his name.
business
When
in
he
the
fell
mid-90s.
through
Due to
the
his
wall.
impressive stature, it didn't take long for people to take notice. One such person was Jimmy Hart, who brought Hale into WCW.
That's the worst
with plans for
debut.
him to be the next major opponent for
Definitely.
Hulk Hogan. With goals like that, you would think WCW would present Hale as a powerful, unbeatable monster, but you would be wrong. Upon his arrival, Hale lost all of his matches, and usually in pretty quick fashion. That's because, despite having a great look, Hale was awful and boring in the ring. WCW wasn't ready to give up yet, though. In 1999, Hale was taken off TV for a while, but in February 2000, he re-debuted as a masked wrestler named The Machine. His debut opponent was Diamond Dallas Page,
Oh,
a solid and credible
please.
adversary. Despite months of training, The Machine was still just as sloppy as always. However, the point of no return came at the end of the match. The spot was supposed to involve DDP hitting the ropes and The Machine crotching himself. That did all happen, but in the worst way possible. First, Page hit the wrong side of the rope. Second, Machine still sold the move, but it looked like he just jumped and neutered himself. The only positive thing to say is that after this, the match quickly came to an end. All the debuts we've seen so far have been bad, but this was on a different level. It was
Which
so
one?
awful that WCW immediately had Emery take off the mask and start wrestling as Hale. But it still wasn't enough to save his career. But it
Oh,
wasn't
no.
just newcomers that WCW ruined. It was legends too. I'm talking about number 3, Bret Hart.
No
In late
way,
1997,
what?
Bret Hart was the hottest wrestler on the planet, and here's why. At Survivor Series that year, Bret Hart had his final WWE match before leaving to go to their rival, WCW. Bret walked into the match as WWE Champion to face the challenger, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Normally in this situation, Bret Hart would lose the title, but he refused to.
Yeah.
This was due to Michaels
The screw
being an
job, yeah.
unprofessional jerk backstage, and since Bret Hart had reasonable creative control, he decided to use his authority. However, Vince McMahon was worried that Bret would take the WWE title with him to WCW, similar to what the WWE Women's Champion Medusa had done nearly 2 years earlier. This led to the infamous Montreal Screwjob.
Yep.
In the middle of Bret and Shawn's match, Vince McMahon told the referee to ring the bell as soon as Michaels locked in the sharpshooter. Going off script and witnessing real backstage drama on TV is why this moment is still talked about to this day. So imagine how crazy this was in 97. I say all this to show just how much attention and interest was on Bret Hart ahead of his WCW debut. World Championship Wrestling had a golden opportunity, and it's not like they didn't know how to handle it. When Kevin Nash and Scott Hall left WWE, WCW used that to create the NWO, which single-handedly allowed WCW to beat WWE in the TV ratings for 83 weeks. So how would WCW debut Bret Hart? They made him the special guest referee for a match between a retired wrestler and someone who was never properly trained.
No way.
Genius. Okay, to back it up a bit,
No
Eric
way.
Bischoff and Larry Zbyszko were feuding and set to have a match with the winner gaining control of WCW's flagship show, Nitro. In order to call it down the middle, Bret Hart was made the special guest referee. Now, in WCW's defense, Bret Hart had a 60-day no-compete clause, meaning he couldn't wrestle. Still, out of all the possibilities, having Bret Hart ref Larry Zbyszko versus Eric Bischoff is what they went with. What was really disappointing, though, is WCW not capitalizing on the Montreal Screwjob. The only acknowledgement of it was this line.
Because nobody knows better than I do what it's like to get screwed over by a referee.
Bret Hart's entire WCW career is
At least he
described
did
as a
it.
train wreck.
In case he mentioned it.
With this awful debut. Number 2, Tito Ortiz.
Oh my god, I think it's gonna be number one. It has to be number one. It has to be number one. The one I mentioned.
In 2013, TNA had faction warfare going on. The Aces and Eights had been running roughshod, so Stain and Kurt Angle reformed the Main Event Mafia to fight back. In the middle of all this, a video was sent to the TNA offices that spoke of an August 1st warning.
August Thursday.
Why it's 6, here we go again.
August Thursday. August live on Spike TV.
Fans tuned into the August 1st, 2013 broadcast of TNA Impact with much curiosity. Could it be Batista, John Morrison, Chris Jericho, a TNA original returning? Well, it was none of those. The show ended with the Aces and Eights and the Main Event Mafia throwing fists. Then, it happened.
August 1 warning, identity revealed as the MMA legend Tito Ortiz.
That clip of Mr. Anderson sums it up best. It was
my
absolute
God.
crickets in the arena. Tito Ortiz had done almost nothing in wrestling. What did TNA expect? You can put anyone else in Ortiz's place, and they would have gotten more of a reaction than he did. Now here's the real kicker. The reason Tito Ortiz came to TNA was to generate hype for his fight against Rampage Jackson, who had already debuted in TNA. However, the fight never ended up happening, making Ortiz's debut an embarrassing, pointless moment.
Yeah.
Now, before I reveal number 1, here are a few other debuts that didn't make the list. After weeks of hype, Sin Cara made his WWE debut.
Oh,
where she
no.
crossed the ring and
When
Sin
he
United's
fell.
champion Sheamus hacking. That almost didn't happen though, as Sin Cara's first obstacle was just trying to get into the ring. When it happened, it seemed to be just a little one-time slip-up. Little did we know how much worse it was gonna be. In March 2010, Sting was sent out to the ring to face a surprise opponent. The surprise ended up being a debuting Rob Van Dam. RVD's TNA debut started out strong as he defeated the Icon in 10 seconds. However, that hype was quickly diminished when Sting spent the next several minutes beating the life out of Van Dam. Way to make RVD look strong during his first night.
Yeah, guys.
In 1996, Razor Ramon, aka Scott Hall, and Diesel, aka Kevin Nash, left WWE for WCW. A few months later, however, Jim Ross announced that he had brought Ramon and Diesel back to the WWE. This led to the infamous fake Razor and fake Diesel. Depending on how you look at it, this could either be a return
Oh my
or
God.
a debut.
No,
but either way,
it's
it was trash.
it's
It
cringe.
was a cheap way for WWE to bait the audience and get them to
Wow.
watch, and nobody benefited from it. Except for the real Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, both of whom got big pay raises because WCW legitimately thought they were going back to WWE. One of the first major WCW stars to debut in WWE after the company shut down was Diamond Dallas Page, but his arrival in WWE was a mixed bag. In the spring of 2001, a mysterious person began stalking The Undertaker's wife, Sarah. After weeks of this going on,
Not
the stalker
Sarah.
appeared on Raw under a ski mask, riding Undertaker's motorcycle to the ring. He then took off the mask to reveal his identity.
Edge. No.
Now, the entire DDP stalking The Undertaker's wife was a pretty bad storyline, but if we're just looking at Page's debut, which we are, it's not bad. The crowd's reaction when he took off the mask was great, and DDP's reason for stalking The Undertaker's wife made sense. He wanted to make a name for himself by going after a legend, and what better way to do that than to target the man's wife?
Yeah, the
Ultimately,
wife.
the way the storyline went made DDP look like an idiot, but I can't say his debut was bad. The Big Show made his WWE debut in a big way by interfering during a steel cage match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. The Giant manhandled Austin, but in doing so, he accidentally threw him out of the cage and allowed Stone Cold to win. You could argue this made Big Show look really strong, and sure, but to me, it just made him look kind of dumb and took away from what should have been a powerful debut.
It wasn't his fault that the
it's
thing
time.
opened,
The number
though.
one worst wrestling debut
It
of all time
is!
is
The Sword
the
Superman.
Shockmaster.
The Shockmaster, that's his name.
Jack the world.
He shocked the whole world, you guys. Like, you have to see this. This was hilarious. Oh my God, this is so sad and hilarious at the same time.
Because he is none other than the Shockmaster!
I told you. Oh, God.
When that's how your debut goes, you gotta look at a different career path.
my
No, a bad debut is one thing, but what about a bad return?
The thing is that, so basically what happened there is that they reinforced that wall at the bottom and it shouldn't have been reinforced. He was supposed to like go through the whole wall, showing how strong, like, hulky he is. Ended up tripping over that wall because he couldn't break it, falling down, and to top it all, the mask fell and his identity was immediately known. And oh my God. And the idea of the mask where he cannot see shit, like he put the mask on and he cannot see anything because all of that glitter was literally where the eyes are. Who thought that was a great idea? You can clearly see it's a stormtrooper mask with glitters on it. Oh my God. I felt so sorry. I reacted to this 3 years ago when I started reacting to WWE, or 2 years ago. And when you guys recommended for me to see that and I watched the whole short documentary about it, I felt so sad for the guy. Like, he got screwed bad. It wasn't even his fault. It's the people who were setting up the scene. Aww. What do you think, guys? Are you sad for Shockmaster? Do you think he deserves a second chance? Is he alive? Should we give him a second chance?